group of us have made a video about septic tanks, looking after our septic tanks. You might ask why. Isn't it rather yucky? Wouldn't we rather just forget about it? Wouldn't we rather flush our loo and just forget about what happens beyond that? Well, we can't. Septic runoff is one of the big reasons that our beaches get polluted. If we're going to have beautiful beaches and we're going to maintain our lifestyle and enjoy this island, we have to make sure that we take our responsibility and keep our septics running really well so none of our wastes end up down in the bays and in our swimming areas. So environmentally, it's really important that we look after our septic tank. But there's another reason. If septic tanks fail, then we might be forced to have a reticulated system. A reticulated system is a series of big pipes, it's water-based, and all of our septic goes to a central plant for treatment. Now, if that central plant or any of the pipes along the way have some kind of failure, then all of that big amount of septic ends up down in the sea. So while septic tanks can fail if they're not looked after well, at least it's a small contained breakout that can be treated and addressed, and we can ensure that there's not a lot of environmental damage. But all over New Zealand there are reticulated systems that have failed, and there have been big problems as a result.
G'day everyone, Haere mai, welcome to the show. It's Monday the 19th of June and tonight we come to you live from New Zealand. Yes, 100% pure New Zealand as the glossy ad describes it. It's just they never said 100% pure what? And this is a 100% pure map of just some of the sewage incidents serious enough to gain media attention over the past 12 months.
You know, we all love our island and our lifestyle for the beaches and our access to the sea, but if there's septic waste in that ocean, you're not going to want to go in there. So we've got together to make this video to help all of us get a better understanding of how to look after our system. We can take pride in that. It's really great. It's our responsibility, it's our waste, and let's keep our island clean and beautiful for all of enjoy.
Your septic tank is basically designed to collect the solid wastes that your house uses, like your toilet waste, kitchen waste. That builds up over the 3 years. If you want to put it into a simple context, you've just got to think of how many rolls of toilet paper the average house uses in a year, times that by 3, it's an awful lot. The liquid waste, as it's flushed down through your septic tank, the primary purpose of your septic tank is to settle those wastes out. Now, the slightly cleaner water comes from the outlet end of your septic tank, and that is passed to one of several forms of drainage field, which is in the back of your property somewhere suitable, and from there is a further treatment that goes on under the ground with bacteria breakdown of the water, and it's basically using nature to take that water up in the form of transpiration and evaporation.
On the island, on Waiheke Island, we are totally dependent on the landowners having their septic units cleaned and cleared every 3 years. Without that, we cannot guarantee the sustainability of on-site waste disposal. Now, the alternative to that is reticulation, and reticulation throughout Waiheke Island would be hugely expensive. Immediately, all ratepayers would have their rates increased by more than double. There would more than probably be 2 charges, one the normal rates and then the one with regards to reticulation. If we have reticulation, the possibility for infill housing, high-rise apartments becomes less of a problem, but it would mean that we could have 6, 7, 20-storey buildings. The whole of the very nature of this island would change immediately.
With so many people living here now, and so many people with enhanced characteristics like big bathrooms, high pressure pumps, lots and lots of water, it's only natural that over time the water quality in the streams is going to get worse. I think there's 9 or 10 streams that go through the residential areas, and most of them exit out onto bathing beaches. So it's quite important that we monitor the water quality of those streams and take steps to overcome any problems that we might discover. Like, just for instance, if we have a septic tank that hasn't been maintained properly and it's beginning to fail, then it's likely that the effluent from the septic tank will end up in the stream. If you imagine that this cut pathway through here was a failed drain, it's quite possible for the effluent from the failed drain to run from that cut grass all the way down to the gorse bush there at the headwaters to the stream. It's a distance perhaps 70 metres, 70 to 100 metres. It's quite possible for effluent to travel that far underground. A lawn generally has even growth, but where the wastewater comes close to the surface, the grass gets lush, and in some instances you can see where the nutrients in the wastewater have invigorated the grass to such an extent that it's long and lush and the rest of the lawn is comparatively short. Then that's an obvious spot to go and look to see whether there's any surface failure. The problem in the winter is that if the ground conditions are more saturated, then you can get overflows from your drains running through the topsoils and you don't even notice it.
Symptoms of a septic tank failure, the standard gravity feed systems, what you'll first experience is wet, smelly areas where the water's not evaporating properly and it comes to the surface. That can get quite bad. It'll turn into a large black boggy area. Most of the symptoms are visual and you'll definitely smell the odour.
Great.
Yeah.
So you're purchasing or you live in a house that has a septic tank. Okay, now if you have been living here a while and you're watching this, or if you're new to the island, you know, welcome. And like myself, when I moved here some years ago, I had no idea how to look after my septic tank. So if you think of it as this living organism, which has healthy bacteria in it, has several scientific names, but it's a bacteria and it's a living organism. So if we start thinking about that, then we start thinking about everything that goes into that, because remember, you do own it and you do want to look after it, and part of that looking after it is really thinking about every single thing that goes down that toilet, goes down the sink, goes down the shower, and that's actually a lot of products. And if you sat there one day and actually went through a list of what you put down your kitchen sink, what you put down your toilet, you know, what you put down all these things, it's a good exercise to actually do. And you think, you know, is that going to harm the bacteria? Will that kill it? And will that make it not function? Because if your septic tank doesn't function properly, it will come back and bite you. Okay, thinking about your septic tank and water, water's a really big concern, and it should be to you, because if you flood your septic tank, you're going to have the solids rising from there and blocking those drains, and you're going to have real problems. It's going to bite you. And you're going to have the health issues that come with that as well as costing a lot of money to call people in to fix it up. So avoid that by actually minimising the amount of water that you put down your septics at one time. For example, your washing. If you're one of those people who've always done your washing in the weekend, you've got a large family and you do several loads all at once, you're going to have to change some of your habits there. And it's just, maybe you do it a couple of times in the week, so you're only doing one load, because it will flood the septic and you will have problems.
Well, if you fail to get your septic tank cleaned out, those solid particles will over a period of time run down into your drainage field, and they'll clog your field up and they lose their efficiency. From that point on, what you'll experience is boggy, smelly, wet areas in your property, and ultimately it will lead to complete failure of your system, and you'll have to have your system completely replaced. The cost of the septic tank clean out once every 3 years is a very low cost compared to replacing your entire system.
It would be nice to think of the pump out bylaw as a sort of a warrant of fitness for your house, or your septic tank in fact, because everything we do, and every time we turn around, we need to do things, we need to maintain things. We need to maintain our cars, we mow our lawns, we have to paint our houses, and a septic tank is just another thing that we need to maintain. The bylaw, in fact, gives us a lot of advice on how to do that. One of the focuses of the bylaw is to keep people on the right track so that they do pump out their septic tank and provide the council with the form.
So what we do with the solids is we pull them out of the bottom of the tanks using those 4-inch valves and our big 4-inch waste pump, and we push them into the worm terraces. You can see just down here, that's sort of the point of entry. It's all a bit wet and disgusting. Further on it looks a bit better. And the worms quietly chew away and have a ball. Well, they chew through the septic quite happily. These are Acinia foetida, they're called the tiger worms, and they're the common compost worms, so they'll be at home in everybody's worm bins. But they're also sewage worms, and they live in people's septic tanks, and they live in my field. This little band here, that's their sexual organ, and what they do when they mate is 2 of them get themselves tied into knots, and they rub against each other, and they fertilise each other's bands. And then they lay little eggs called cocoons. They're little green cocoons which might contain anything up to 12 baby worms. I can show you some baby worms that have just hatched if you want me to. I've got some of those over the other side. I think these are my babies. What you get out of those cocoons when they hatch. My hatchlings.
Composting toilets are the way to go. They're simple to make, they're very economical to make, they're non-smelling, you can have them attached to the house, you don't have to have them away. They're not, as when you mention composting toilets to people, they always think of long drops. You know, I don't know where that correlation comes, but you know, stinking bloody things, but they're not smelly things. They can be beautiful, clean, lovely, hygienic places, as Derek's got here. There's not a problem with them.
Oh, we're home. We're at Derek and Eleanor's home. It's at Lavender Farm, and we're in our compost toilet. I guess there's 3 main things I find. I don't have a huge septic system sitting somewhere that I have to deal with. There's a very simple door out the back there that you open up probably twice a year, and I probably get half a dozen wheelbarrows full of pretty good compost which I can use on the trees outside. And the other thing is that I'm not using huge amounts of water, obviously.
Water is a big problem. You know, I don't know how much, I don't know what the statistics are of using in a normal house with flush toilets. They use an incredible amount of water, and I'm trying to think, but I think it's 30% of your water usage is flushed down the toilet. So all that water, that beautiful fresh water, which the world is running out of, you know, so there's only a very small amount of actual fresh water in this world. And here we are continuously polluting it. We poo in our toilets and we shove all this water on and wash it down, and it all becomes polluted water when you don't need any water. People have got to get used to looking at their own waste, actually, I suppose, and you know, it is a health thing. Actually, it's really, I think, quite healthy to look at that. But instead of having the old scenario of flushing away and forgetting about it, is actually thinking, well, that is part of me. I own that. Let me do something about it.